Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Dumb SEO Questions, episode 301. Each week we meet here to answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+, and the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group. With us tonight we have David Rozam, 30 years a copywriter, 12 years an SEO copywriter. He's based in the southern coast of the UK. You can find
to the left of Brighton.
I beg your pardon, David?
To the left of Brighton.
Okay. And you can find David at davidrozam.com or writingforseo.org. Tim Capper is CEO of onlineownership.com. He's sitting in his hotel room in Brighton, in the UK, for Brighton SEO commencing tomorrow. Tim is also a Google Top contributor on the Google My Business community. He is a local local search expert. William Rock is proud to call himself an SEO. He hails from Kansas in the USA. He's also a Google Top contributor on the search and webmasters communities. And Masataki Wasa is webmaster of wasaweb.net. He's also in the UK. I'm glad we got William along to keep the other side of the pond represented. I don't know where Micah is tonight. But Masataki, as I said, webmaster of wasaweb.net and also a Google Top contributor on the AdSense community. All right. We have... I don't know what I've done wrong here. Hang on. There we are. And sorry, I've just got myself a bit confused here. See if that works. No, it doesn't work. All right. Let me see what I can do to recover from this. Just bear with me. This is a real pest.
Well, it's different using a different platform for chat or for Hangouts.
Yeah.
You'll get used to it after a while.
Yep, we will, I guess. Just let me... goodness me. Terrible to be getting old. All right, let me try once more. There we are. Now we're set. Okay, so we have 9 questions tonight. The first one is, it's saying multiple links to the same page located on one page. Good heavens. It's from Lars Norgard Gravison, and he asks, will multiple links to the same page /source located on the one page hurt internal rankings? For example, on a front page, due to responsive web design, the code always contains 3 layouts, desk, mobile, and tablet. All layouts have a link to category /product 1. So this link will appear in the code 3 times, but will only be visible for the user once. Will these links be seen as an attempt to manipulate internal links, or is Google smart enough to only read and assign value to links crawled with the active user agent used during the crawl? Notes. The link and anchor text is always the same in different layouts. Different types of crawler all count the internal links as being 3 links, disregarding the user agent defined for the crawl. How about that? Am I the only one here?
No, I was basically trying to think of the structure, and I was also looking at some of the comments. As long as Google's seeing the same information on all 3 devices, it shouldn't cause a problem. I would imagine that you have everything canonicalized, set to the main URL, keeping it consistent across. But when you talked about user agent, yeah, Google, I would imagine, can see the user agent. What you want to try to make sure is you're not doing any type of cloaking or looking like you're using a cloaking technique that could actually affect the browser or what the crawler sees. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it would have caused much of a problem, if any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I'm just trying to think why it might cause a problem.
Yeah, I think there is an element of overthinking about this. I'm not so sure whether I would worry too much about it, to be honest.
Yeah, and depending on how long you've had this up, you could definitely see what's showing up in your search console, Webmaster Tools, and just identifying to make sure that Google is indexing and crawling those, and there's no messages from the Google bot saying, "Hey, we can't. This is cloaking," or anything like that. But for the most part, if you're seeing it, you're getting traffic on those, and it's sustained from the Google organic search, you should be fine. It's when you stop seeing that then I would worry. But like Masataki and David said, I think you're overthinking it. There's other things probably to focus on more. But as long as you're giving a good user experience and you're basically presenting the same information to the Google bot as you are the user, you're fine.
Yeah, I think it boils down to that. And I suppose an interesting element in this is in mobile first indexing. What do you have on your mobile version becomes quite important, and that might be an interesting point to pursue or to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you have gotten that message that from Search Console that Google sees the content the same on mobile, you should see that switch over for mobile first indexing. So you should get that message that mobile and desktop are equivalent, and so they've switched you over to the mobile indexing. That should be a good sign that you're actually doing things fine.
Cool. Okay. Will we call that an answer for Lars? I think we will. Let's go to the next one. This one is from JL Faverio. What's the best kind of page title for a plumbing company?
One without leaks.
One without leaks?
Yes, one without leaks. So we're not talking vegetables here. Yes, I read this and I thought, oh, that's quite an interesting one.
Well, nobody seemed to fucking like mine, so they can all just fuck your all.
Oh, what did you say, Tim?
Brand name, Bob's Plumbing, and then whatever your main service is, heating and plumbing in San Diego.
Yeah.
Or you could say you're the greatest, cheapest, bestest plumber in city and then surrounding areas.
And then someone said, don't put your brand name in the beginning for your homepage, but Google swaps it around anyway when someone searches your brand. So it's like, Anyway.
Well, I think it goes back to, don't just because you're a plumber doesn't mean that the title tag is going to be different for you than any other service. It goes back down to your title tag for your homepage is going to be different than the ones that you're talking about a garbage disposal upgrade, or let's talk about getting ready for a bathroom remodel, or how are you actually targeting that, and go back to if you were advertising on Google, what would that ad look like for you? What would you put in the title of that ad, the body of that ad, and what would be that call to action? Is that page, your title and your description are going to be the key things that they're going to see when they're searching for a specific thing. If it's brand name, then yes, you're going to have your brand name in the actual title somewhere. I don't think you have to necessarily say San Francisco plumber all the time, because if the person is looking for plumbing, they're coming from a specific location already, and Google is going to identify a plumber in the Google search listings quickly, and also in the rankings, so that they're accurately providing the plumber experience on the search results. So they've already kind of done a lot of that work for you, making sure. And that goes back to your Google My Business. Make sure that's all clean. But go as far as title, I would be, don't overthink it. Think about it as an ad. What would you be putting in for an ad or that page? So going back to the bathroom remodel. So I don't say best bathroom remodels in town, but maybe looking to remodel your bathroom today, or not today, but basically looking to remodel your bathroom. We have plenty of resources and reviews to check out, and then get on your merry way and land on it. So I'm over talking now. So chatterbox.
Oh, never, William.
But yeah, keep it consistent with an ad. I mean, go out and do some searches for yourself. What are other plumbers using in theirs or in their ad copy? Don't copy and paste it, but create it yourself, and just think about the user experience. What are they going to land on your page from what you just said in your title and your description and bounce because that wasn't really what they were looking for when they landed on your page? That's something I'd consider.
Yeah.
I agree with Tim. I think, in the end, stick with your name and the services you offer.
Yeah, I agree with you too, Tim. I think that, once upon a time, if you had your keywords in the title, the H1, and your URL, you practically owned it, providing you had some PR for your site. These days, it's tweaked so much that the title isn't as important, I don't think. Nor is the having the URL hold the keywords as well.
The person's looking for a service, and they're not looking for your business. They don't know you just yet. So even with your branding, they're looking for the service. They have a problem, and you're the expert to be able to fix it. So doing the same thing on the website is key.
Yeah. If David Roseanne was doing it, he'd probably search these days. He'd probably search West Sussex plumbers reviews, wouldn't he? Anyway, let's go to the next. This one from Ed Barnett. He's a fan of ours on YouTube. Always, or nearly always, leaves a comment. Anyway, Ed said last week, more about doorway pages. He said last week on the 20th of September, you briefly discussed doorway pages and concluded that they should not be done. Can you give a better definition of what a doorway page is and how it might differ from a legitimate small or one-page site? I am thinking mostly of how this might apply to small service area businesses like plumbers or photographers in some metropolitan areas. I, for instance, am in the Albany, New York area, which can be seen encompassing not only the city of Albany, but a dozen or more distinct or semi-distinct communities with their own official or local names, some or all of which many of our local service area tradesmen and businesses need to serve, and need therefore to show up in search pages of a multitude of communities that they may not have an actual physical location / store / office in. For example, Joe the plumber works out of his home in the hamlet of Boat Corners in the town of Colony. We still use outhouses, joke, in Boat Corners. So while it is a nice place to live, there is no work for Joe here. There is actually some plumbing, not to mention an international airport in Colony, but Joe really has to attract work from Albany and Schenectady. Did I mention Schenectady? God, Ed. If he wants to feed his kids. I think Joe needs 3 or 4 well-placed little one-page sites to reach his market and compete well, but I don't want to slam him with doorway pages. Is there a way to do that? I'm going to have to tax Ed Barnett for the length of his question.
So the first thing is you don't necessarily need doorway pages, okay? Because so from what you've described is, yeah, sure, he has to, you know, his main source of income is going to be Schenectady, right? Which maybe, I don't know, I don't know how far that is, what, 40, 50, 60 miles away? So you don't necessarily need to do that. So, you know, let's say, what was he? Was he a plumber? What was he? Oh, I can't remember. That question was so long. So let's say he's a plumber. So firstly, you know, your GMB page, you can actually, so for your Google My Business page, you can select the areas you serve. So you will select whatever it was, colonoscopy and Schenectady, and you will select those in your GMB thing. In your structured data markup, because you're a service area business, you will, you know, say this is your geolocation area, and then you can actually put a target area. So you can put a circumference on that as 40, 50, 60 miles away. You don't need Schenectady doorway pages. You're going to have your service pages. You know, like I do hot water systems, boiler installations, maintenance, yearly winter maintenance. So you'll have your service pages in your site. Possibly have in your footer, you know, where Joe's plumber serving customers between X location and Albany and Kochkani and Skeshkami, yeah. So you're just going to have it in there. So you've got your GMB providing your information. You've got your a footer just saying we start, you know, we service all the way from Albany, Colony, and Skeshkami, right? So that's going to run across your site anyway. You're not spamming anything. That's just who you are. We're Bob's plumbers. We work from here to there to there. And then you can, so there's no doorway pages, but you've given all the information. Now, if you want to start targeting a little bit more interesting things, Jim, I don't know what you're doing, mate, but you're sharing your advanced IP scanner and stuff.
Oh, okay. Thank you, mate.
So where was I? So yeah, so no doorway pages there, but you're sending all the signals on that. And if you want to specifically target things in particular, Colony and wherever the other thing was, you can start doing little case studies or not case studies, view our work, you know, like little testimonials. So it would be new boiler installation in X road in Eskimi, right? And we recently completed a boiler installation for Mrs. Wilcox in X Road in blah blah blah. Take a picture of the old boiler. Of course, you're going to probably tag that up. Picture of the new boiler installation. We cleaned it up. What was the how many hours it took us? What was the new kit you installed? What was the new boiler? You replaced one for one. We replaced this one because it's more energy efficient, heat, blah, blah, blah. The approximate cost on this was X, Y, Z. So you then putting in you're then starting to target more specific things, because someone searching for, let's say, emergency plumber is not necessarily going to be looking at you, because you still might be 20, 30 minutes away, right? But someone who's looking for boiler installation might do. And when they search boiler installation, boiler installation in Skeshami or whatever, boom, they see your article, because you're 9 times out of 10, it doesn't look very competitive market. So then, that's going to be right up there. They could also be looking for fuel efficient or energy efficient boilers. And next minute, because you've included that in there, they can see your work, this testimonial of yours, you can see your work. The old boiler, the new boiler, they can see approximate costs. Next minute, you've got a phone call. I'd like you to, come and look at mine. So that's how I would therefore target those. And because you're then including these kind of location sort of based testimonials or review page, or not review page, what are they called when you're a service business? My brain's gone dead. It's not a case study. It's... Someone help me out, yeah.
Testimonials?
No, it's not really a testimonial.
It is a case study.
No, it's like a job. If you do a job, because it's not really a case study, a boiler installation. It's more like a review our work.
Yeah.
Check out our work. Review our work. Projects. See our project. No, I wouldn't call it a project. Anyway, doesn't matter. But you know what I'm on about. And that's how I would target those areas specifically. And the more you start including those, you're going to becoming, Google's going to start understanding it more. So rather than a doorway page that does absolutely nothing for you, start, fine tuning and targeting the exact person for your exact search and the user intent, which they're looking for. Fuel efficient boiler in, latest installation, things like that. That's how I would do it personally, but obviously other people do different ways.
Cool, Tim. Cool. All right. I think we have to call time on Ed's question. I think it's been covered pretty well. I hope I didn't send you to sleep reading it out, guys. Okay. Here's one from Chris Marcus. It's titled SEO on Landing Pages for Ads. Chris said, I work in an agency where the PPC team is using site search queries to create appropriate landing pages for ads, brackets, because category/product filters are insufficient, close brackets. What's the correct approach from an SEO perspective for these types of pages that are getting indexed?
Depends on, are those landing pages needing to be indexed or just basically used for paid advertising? So you use tools like Unbounce, for example, for landing pages, and you can actually focus those and then have the links go right to those exact products, and not need to actually build anything that's indexable. So how are those landing pages being used, and are they appropriate for showing up in the search engines is going to be probably different, or they go after it and fix the actual filters, categories on your main website. But unfortunately, it sounds like they can't do that. So, but sending traffic to a landing page, that a lot of people do that. It's just a matter of maybe having a no index, no follow, unless you definitely need that in the search engine.
Thank you, William. I say we've just been joined by Micah Fisher-Kirshner. Micah is head of SEO for Turn River Capital in the United States. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next. I hope that's an answer for you, Chris. This one from Diraj Kochar. He said, I lost my keywords ranking after changing the URL structure. He said, hi guys, my development team has changed my website design and some of the URL structure and update matters. Update matters. I don't know what he means there. He said, I lost my keywords ranking. How to improve them again?
Well, I think the biggest part is to go back and look at those URL structures that you changed and making sure that those pages are actually having a 301 redirect to the new pages would probably be a good start for the fact that Google doesn't know what those pages are anymore. And if your Google Webmaster Tools is based, or Search Console is pointing it out that they're 404s, and those don't necessarily need to be a 404 or 410, 301 them. Get them to the right place. And then those rankings should come back pretty quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you, William. Although the URL, like it's probably the thing that we come across most often. The development team changes the website design, and of course they turn all of their ranking pages and pages that are linked to into 404s. You know, the ranking comes from the links to the pages, but then now the pages are gone forever. So really, as you say, William, he's got a 301 those pages, or re-implement them.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that you got to look at too is, you know, depending on how long the site's been in existence, I'm sure that there's probably links from posts out there on the web that are now 404ing. So going into looking at your reports in Search Console is going to be key, just to look at what's 404ing and what's not, and then optimizing for it. So now you've got to change where that direction's going. That way you're not losing traffic. You may have been getting regular traffic from referrals. And if you're doing even paid advertising, you know, that's another thing that you need to go back and check to see, okay, they've changed the URL structures. Were you actually targeting those pages that are now changed? And if so, then you're paying for clicks for a broken page. So eventually Google will catch it, but not right away. Google AdWords catches things like that. So
cool. All right, Diraj, I hope that you'll find that helpful. This one is from David Gizzarelli. On a search engine results page, first page, but no traffic. He said, I really don't understand why all of my websites receive no traffic. One of my sites, my business page, is on the first page of Google for my keywords, and I'm even above Yelp, TaskRabbit, and Thumbtack. Yet I get no hits, leads, or calls from my website. He said, all of my business either comes from Yelp or the Google business page. All tests show my site is in top form. Do I expect too much? Maybe my landing page and form isn't attractive. It's a Google conspiracy. He said, would an SEO expert subscription help me? I'm no expert, but I've gotten to the first page of Google. Thanks.
I'd probably go after, look at your Google Analytics. If you got Google Analytics, you're going to know, as long as it's properly set up, and maybe in this case, your analytics is not properly set up, whereas it's not reporting that you're having traffic. So you may actually be getting traffic to your site, but not actually seeing that in the data. But also look at your Webmaster Tools and Search Console to see if the actual queries are getting to your website. And you can determine if you're not actually getting that.
Yeah, and you may not even be ranking for queries that people are searching for. Just being on position 1 doesn't necessarily imply that that query has traffic. So you may be ranking above terms for all these different sites, which is great, but if it doesn't drive any traffic in, then it doesn't mean anything. And of course, you don't. It's not going to matter in terms of, you're not converting people if the traffic side is not showing any data. So really, you need to kind of go back and see which of these queries are. Assuming it's not a function of what William was saying with say a Google Analytics issue, before anything else.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there might be areas that they're not actually getting the traffic. I mean, depending on the industry, you may be actually not getting, you go up on the first page, but you're really not actually getting that much audience to it. So there might be an opportunity where you can look at adding some additional areas to your website that actually does drive a little bit of visitor experience to it. The other thing is probably even when the people the traffic that you do see on there, maybe looking at a tool like Hotjar or others that you can start to see what did that visitor do on the site. Did they roam around? Did they go to the pages that you wanted them to get to? Did they go to the form? Did they start to fill out the form and then something in that form just they didn't want to fill out, so they just left? There could be a lot of different things going on without looking at the site. It's hard to tell. Jim, was there a site URL in that?
There was, and I did look at it. I just can't see how to get back to it now. But in the comments for this question, David did put the search terms, and from that you could figure out which one.
Furniture assembly, so furniture, San Francisco.
Oh yeah, I had a look at that last night. Yeah, like literally, I think furniture assembly, San Francisco. SEMrush gave me a potential of 10 searches a month. Obviously, I can't without being, I didn't want to go and see what furniture assembly in 24. But I'm assuming if 10 for furniture assembly San Francisco is 10 a month, just furniture assembly with a San Francisco IP, I'm going to guess, I don't know, 30 maybe. So what I did think there is, so essentially the traffic on that term is not really there. What I think you need to concentrate on is at what point does someone give up doing their own furniture and then look for someone? Because it's not there within the actual search query. I'm thinking it possibly could be other queries that you need to start looking at. So what I think you need to look at what point does someone trying to put something like together for IKEA and then think, oh, sod it, I want someone to come and do this. So possibly even look at, doing a page on IKEA, different kind of brands. I don't know if there are any other kind of brands out there. One thing that also I thought of was how about like furniture disassembly? Someone moving home. I'm assuming you would also offer that, because if somebody's moving home and let's say they can't get the double bed out, but they're packing and moving their whole house, that could be a possibility. They have someone come in and disassemble and box up their stuff for moving. So I really think you need to find out what people are actually searching for to the point where they think, I want someone to come and assemble or disassemble my furniture. And then possibly provide some kind of content that would target them in that state of when they want this kind of service. Because if you're just sitting on that keyword, people aren't really searching for it. I think you need to find them at what point of the process, like fed up putting up another cot, or I don't know. So you kind of, I think you need to target them at that point of when they make that decision. And unfortunately, I don't know when that decision is. I think you need to speak to people, past customers, ask them seriously, at what point did you think I want someone to come and put my wardrobe up, or my new dinner table, or something like that? Possibly, yeah, I don't know. I think you're going to need to do a bit of research on that and catch them at that moment of intent. And what were they looking for?
Yeah.
So you'd have articles like how to use an Allen key, Tim, is that it?
Well, the other thing I'm noticing is, so for example, you go on the homepage and in your content, you've got just a lot of actual keywords that are, furniture repair, and they're going to furniture repair. And it seems to be all the same information, maybe the formatting. I did see that when I actually just typed in the actual domain, it gave me the not secure up in the top, but I did notice that when I went through the website to other pages, it does show the actual HTTPS, so that's good. When you click on furniture, you're seeing a lot of the furniture in there. I don't know why. Right at the very top, it says Furniture Assembly San Francisco, and then it says testing. Maybe you're working on that page. But then as you scroll down, you do see you did a couple different projects of assembly. The text is probably a little bit better formatted, or you could probably do a little bit more formatting to it. So just probably some little minor tweaks to it. I don't know how long the site's been up yet. I didn't run any tests for that, but if this is a kind of a newer site, then maybe that's probably why you're not getting a lot of traction yet. I did see some of the pictures that do have because it looks like every picture that you have up here was the assembly build that you did for a whiteboard, to a couch, to some of the kitchen furnitures, to kids' toy, like little beds, which I would imagine I probably wouldn't want to put together. Looks like it might be a little complicated. So yeah, going back to what Tim was saying is, how, being able to say you're putting these things together. Why not just let us do it for you, and then be a little bit more information on that, versus just kind of like the standard text that you have going on over and over for each assembly build that you do.
Yeah. I mean, nobody has ever said, after buying IKEA, nobody's ever said, gee, that was great. I can't wait to do that again. Maybe David could put up articles like how to save your marriage after buying from IKEA.
I always give it to my wife to assemble. She actually enjoys it. But on a more serious note, occasionally I do get to them. We actually used a service like this a few years back, but one of the reasons we actually engaged the guy we did was that he actually went to IKEA and got the stuff, so we didn't have the problem of hiring a van, going to an IKEA store many miles away, and he brought it all back and he assembled it. Great. It's all done in one day with no intervention by us. And our point of looking for a flat pack furniture assembler was not at the assembly point. It was at the getting the stuff here point. So assuming that IKEA works the same way in the US as it does here in the UK, maybe that should be part of your you say furniture delivery here. Yeah, maybe you do it, but it's I don't know. But that was what in this survey of one, That's why we did it. The other thing is, aren't all these pages doorway pages, as we've been talking about? They seem to be more or less the same copy, although some of the time it's over the top of photographs, so you can't read it. But it looks to me as if it's just a case of swapping round locations. So it looks to me as if you've put together a set of doorway pages, which is not going to help you.
Yeah, when you end up looking at the footer, for example, you've got a lot of additional pages in there, simply lounge, which is good. I think it might just need a little bit more organization now that I look at, through. I actually pulled it up through SEMrush just to see kind of what kind of traffic, because you mentioned that you're getting position ones, and I do see that for furniture assembly SF, it is position one. Which is actually a pretty expensive cost per click. It looks like $8.66. And if you start to look at the map result for that, I would start to look at what other companies are in that search result. I mean, you've got on-site furniture assembly. You've got I think the same one I'm looking at. So your main one is actually showing up in the 3-pack #1, which is nice. But look at their websites. There's a lot of other websites in here that I think you could probably learn from, and just kind of the reorganization of the environment. Maybe having a left navigation that has a little bit further in-depth information of like categories, subcategories of types of furniture you're putting together. Because I think that you've got a lot of great pictures in here too. So I've used companies to put my stuff together as well, and maybe even having testimonials. So you have these great pictures, but then you might also have referencing that maybe you've got a Yelp review that you can actually reference that, and they can click on the link going to the Yelp page to see that it is a legit Yelp review for you. But yeah, I think it's just probably just a little bit more of the user experience aspect that you might be missing here.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, William. I've just been I've just been working round the site, and I don't really understand the three menu items: mobile, furniture, and assembly. I thought that was just I didn't realise those were 3 menu items. Even they weren't right somehow. So once I'd actually found that perhaps they were, because there was, as I hovered over assembly, it says furniture assembly photos, that if I clicked it, then what happens? Oh yes, we get a page, and we get a bit of it's I don't understand the whole thing. Just doesn't seem to be working properly on Chrome. I don't know if it's been put together for Microsoft browser or something, but the sometimes I'm getting the full menu, sometimes it's coming up as part of a page and then disappearing, and all sorts of odd things are happening, and I'm not sure how to get back to the home page.
Well, and I just came across something that was quite interesting that I saw, which was another URL in the index that shows mobile -furniture -assembly -now -SF. So a keyword that you're showing up for, or furniture assembly. So I've got multiple sites, and I actually do see the same telephone number on this, whereas the site that we were looking at in the beginning doesn't really show a telephone number unless you click on the actual icon for the telephone. So for me personally, I'm probably not going to click on that because I don't know what triggers maybe will be or what it's going to do, because I'm probably not calling directly from my laptop necessarily. It would work good for my phone if I was actually surfing on my cell phone, but maybe putting that telephone number up there would be helpful too. But I don't know about those two sites. It looks very close to the same phone number, pictures as well, it looks like, unless this is just a totally different company. But hard to tell. It shows the, double check that's the same for 748.
Yeah. I think a great answer was given by Dave Elliott. I'll just read a little bit of it. He said, your site has major issues. Your content and site just don't inspire trust. The text is over-optimized and spammy. And that was really evident if you look at some of your competitors around the same keywords. Look at your competitors. There's one guy there with a really good site, and I'm sure that one reason is that your chosen keywords don't get a lot of search volume, but whatever search volume is landing on those keywords, the person getting the action from it is one of your competitors who has, built a site that is actually useful, that looks, inspires confidence, and that's what David's site is lacking. Sometimes when we get too close to a thing, our eyes don't see the downside, and anyway, it's probably worthwhile having a look. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, I think that's a fantastic point there, Jim. I was just going to actually point out one other thing that I noticed in the traffic report from SEMrush is I do see a couple different spikes of traffic starting around May 2000. It's not a lot. It's basically 2. So, and then it goes to 13, and then there was a little dip to 5 in July, but then really good spike from 5 visitors a day to about 69, and then a really good steep drop back down to 29 in September. I know there's different fluctuations of algorithms going in there, but seeing both those sites, one with a hyphen and one without the hyphen, and it's the same telephone number, I'm wondering how many other sites you may have out there, and if this was to just purposely rank for feature furniture assembly in San Francisco. Maybe it's just there's not a lot of people doing it that you're ranking right now, but just cleaning up that user experience, like you guys are all saying, it's going to probably helpful. So
yeah. All right. I think we've covered this one, guys. Any objections if I move on? All right, let's go to the next. This one from Joban John. He said the featured snippet does not appear when using Google USA. He said the featured snippet for a site appears when using Google UK, EU, and Asia, but doesn't appear when using Google US. Is there something that needs to be done here? Why is this happening?
Yeah, I think it's going to go based off of where they're actually searching from. If he's actually doing a search for that featured snippet and he's in the UK, then yes, it's going to actually show. If he's in Asia, then it's going to show on that search platform in that IP range. It's probably not going to fire if I just typed in the keyword UK or plus UK.
Yeah. But you go. So go ahead.
It also depends on the intent, from your whatever your feature snippet's about may satisfy a UK user or an Asian or Australian user's intent, but when it comes to the States, it may be perceived slightly differently, and Google might feel that it's not particularly satisfying that user's intent coming from the States, whether it be a language variation, whether it just be something completely different, or whether there's just a lot more competition for that query in the States, and Google hasn't decided whether, you know, yours quite fits it to be there. I've got some featured snippets appearing globally, and I've got some, as you described, where it's not appearing in the US, but it appears UK, Asia, and for example Australia, and that, but not for the US. So, you know, it's not something I freak out about. It's just the intent of that, and who is provided, and is that actually perceived correctly for the US market. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's anything you're doing wrong. It's just a question of the intent and what Google feels is the right snippet to show at that point.
Yeah, and just to add, to build on that a little bit, for international queries, for me, for particular, I would probably end up going to the featured snippet results on SEMrush. I know I talk about SEMrush a lot, but the snippets tool, I can actually switch between countries. So I could actually click on the UK traffic, and I could look at what that snippet is showing for that, and I can go back to the US and see what that is, or my Asia. So there's a lot of things you can see that way. But yeah, like, it's tricky.
Yeah.
Without knowing the query and the intent, like Tim mentioned, it's rather difficult.
Yeah. Look, before we move on, I'd just like to call out to our stalwarts on the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group, people like Michael Martinez, Roger Monty, people that turn up every day and answer the questions asked on the Dumb SEO Questions group on Facebook. It's appreciated. We appreciate it very much. Here's a question from Colin McIntosh. It's titled E-commerce website, exactly the same content, but different areas. Colin said, "Hi, I run a successful UK e-commerce website and have been doing that for quite some time. We are increasingly getting inquiries for Europe. However, we feel that there would be more opportunities with a much more EU-focused website. I would like to set up a EU-focused website, but because I'm not much of a linguist, thank you, David, it would be better if this was in English. I'm worried, though, that Google will see this as a duplicate content issue and penalize me. Advice and help needed."
You know, I think it's a tricky one, but for the most part, if you're doing business already UK and then you're wanting to go over to Europe, you know, focusing on your Google Search Console, I would probably say targeting that and letting Google know that this is where you're targeting traffic on your UK side, and then when you're over on the EU side with that site, that's where that's going to be focused on. They've gotten a lot better with duplication, and as long as you're not trying to do something really spammy with it, I think they're going to identify that. So duplicate content, probably not so much the case, but then, you know, you're serving to that specific audience.
Also, duplicate content is filtered. It's not penalized. All it means is that if your two pages are absolutely identical and all the same conditions, off-page characteristics are exactly identical, then Google will only show one of them. So as long as both of the sites belong to him, it's not going to hurt if they do have some similar content.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be down to regional targeting. So you're telling Google where your your focus is for that URL. And I think Google's been able to pick that up. I mean, for me, you know, international sites, I've got those, but they focus on that territory so that those search results for that website are not going to blend into the United States. They're going to stay over in Australia or EU, wherever that territory that they maintain that website. They may have the same exact content, but they also would probably have their own additional content based off the territory, depending on what he's selling. There might be different influencers in one section of the country versus another. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's call that an answer for Colin, and hope that he finds what he needs from it. This one is a question from Luigi Nika. It's on about links in the footer. He said, hello, I read a lot about links in the footer, and I still can't decide if it's good or bad, if what I want to do is good or bad. He said, I'm speaking strictly from Google penalties point of view. I already know that I'm diluting the authority by doing this. Some companies like Envato simply put links to their other sites. Others put a no follow. In my case, I sell products. I have 2 main sites and around 10 one-page websites that I would like to link from the footer. In my case, I don't spam. Oh, I'm not so sure about that. He said, in my case, I don't spam, but rather I'm taking this route. I don't know what that means. But each one-page website grows. The scope is different as I am addressing different markets. On one side, I only sell new collections. On another one, I'm selling just the core products, while on the 10 doorway pages, I am offering limited time deals on some products. Price and descriptions will be different. Because they are all part of the same family, I want to grow them together. Will this be penalized by Google or not? Please help me, as I can't understand if I can't decide if we should do it or not. Thanks.
Yeah, okay. So you keep saying these are part of the same family, blah, blah, blah. Well, they're clearly not, because you didn't feel comfortable enough on having the same site and building one brand. So they're clearly not part of the same family. Putting links in your footer to 10 different one-page sites, no, that's not a good idea, because no, that's, look, I mean, because essentially you say they're part of the same family. Well, they're not, because, you know, they weren't good enough to actually work within the main site itself. You know, even though you say one is for limited time deals, well, you can have a page on your site, limited time deals, things like that. So yeah, I wouldn't put those, because that seriously sounds like doorway spam, basically. So I would not put links to that. However, what you could do is just have, you know, in your footer, have, you know, about the company or whatever. And on your about page, like, you know, in your footer, read about the company or find out more about different parts of the company. And on that page, then delineate the company. So do you want one-time only special deal? Check out our one-time only, and then have a link. So there's one page which links to all the 10, not from your footer, because those are just crap, what you've described. So I wouldn't be, you know, if they were genuine independent sites that, you know, yeah, I could say within the brand, yeah, you might want to link out, but they're not. You know, what you've described is not great. So I would just have read about the company in your footer. People can click through to the company page. They can see, this is, if I want the one-time offer paid site, I can click that. But the weird thing is they go to that, then they're probably coming back to your site again. That's what it sounds like. So anyway, yeah, I would just have one page on your site linking out to all those others. and structure it as about the company or whatever. I wouldn't do this one in your footer. No, not for this. But in another situation where you've actually got legitimate sites running within the same brand, but one does installations, one does development, but it's the same brand, it's more than fine to link through to that, because Google will understand the company. But this isn't that case. So in this case, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, agreed, Tim. Yes, Luigi, my 2 cents is that, I mean, Google's been doing this for 20 years, and, Bing is the same. We had Dwayne Forrester on Dumb SEO Questions on our, I think it was our 100th episode. And he had some insight into this. He worked for Microsoft for some time. He said that we know that links like footer links never get clicks. So we simply ignore them. They have no value. And of course, Google would be the same. You're not doing anything for yourself by putting them in, and they just make your site look spammy. I wouldn't bother. Anybody else? Okay, we'll go to the next. Oh, it's that time again. We'll be back at the same time next week to do this all again. But before we go, we'd just like to thank you for watching episode 301 of Dumb SEO Questions. Your interest in what we do makes what we do worthwhile, and for that we thank you very much. All right.